Hello.
Hello.
Oh,
I'm ready.
that was some quick outfit changes for the both of you.
Listen, if y'all had seen us like 3 minutes ago, these are 3 different women on the screen right now. I'll tell you that right now.
Hello, and welcome to Spilling Some Tea with the lovely and amazing Leslie Mack and the equally lovely and amazing Chris Love and me, Cessi Sparrow, in the hat because I'm ready for this movie tonight. And let's kick it off with what the streets is talking about. So there's been a lot of chatter about what's going on over at Howard these days. They got a lot going on, protests and horrible facilities, and the health and safety of the students is in jeopardy.
They're going to 25, 24, 25 of their strike where they're camping outside.
Yeah.
Like, ooh, I wish I had that energy when I was that young.
Well, it's interesting, I think they've had like 6 students that have actually been hospitalized due to the conditions of their dorms. So quite a number of the folks that are sleeping outside are not sleeping outside just to protest. They literally do not feel safe in their dorm rooms, and their health is at risk. And so it's necessitative for quite a lot of them, which is really disappointing, sending lots of, disheartening. Especially considering how much money they and or their loved ones are paying for them to attend this prestigious university, prestigious HBCU. And I think it's been sad, difficult to watch. I know lots of my comrades, Angela People, shout out, Makia Green, shout out, Nini Davey has been out there just supporting the students and helping them, as organizers are wont to do. It's kind of our lot in life is to jump into the fray, not to take over, but to just make sure they have some of their basic needs met, and that, we can help them with messaging and help them with whatever the needs are that they might have as they continue this fight. And so, I think what's been saddest to me is the lack of action on the part of the alumni. Right. Especially the high profile alumni. And it's this very big, like, we had to suffer through it, so y'all suffer too vibes. And I hate it. I am fully of the opinion that we should always want the next generation to have it easier, to not have to deal with the things that we had to deal with, and to push for better for them. And it's been sad to watch. And I'm sure for the students equally sad and disappointing. So
this is the result of like vulture capital. And we know that the dorms are sponsored, or their housing is sponsored by private equity firms.
Yep.
And so, these are the same folks that have, shitty conditions in our jail systems. And, it's interesting that, they would treat Black students on par with what they treat prisoners. More importantly, I can't help but link this to the Biden administration's cutting resources and funding to HBCUs and how that will exacerbate these impacts. Right now, I feel for those students. And we all, I went to undergrad too. I went to a dorm where we didn't even have central air, right, in North Carolina, right? So I get that. But at the same time, I'm with Leslie, we should want better, especially because they're paying a whole lot more in tuition than we did when we were in school. So they should get more bang for their buck, but at the very least, they should have housing that isn't dangerous. I saw a clip of like an eye wash station where the water was coming out like pea yellow.
Yeah, and laboratories where the flush systems are just not working at all in case there was an accident, things like that. And Corvias is the name of the private equity managed housing company. And it's really interesting because Elizabeth Warren, this was one of the companies she had specifically mentioned and targeted during her primary campaign, because they are under scrutiny in Massachusetts as well directly. So we see, as you know, as Chris just mentioned, these connections of how capitalism has infiltrated to the detriment to so many of our systems and institutions. And you know, Howard is just another one. And this is what happens when we put the lives and safety of human beings in the hands of those that really only care about profit. And that's the long and the short of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I did read something about Alicia Rashad. Someone had asked where she was on all of this, and she was out there basically shaming the students.
Yep.
Saying they were bringing down the name of the university, and
yeah.
I just, you know, liberalism and, you know, respectability are deadly for us. They're just deadly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. And when you really, like, to go back to the start of, you know, your comments, Leslie, when you think about, like, there are so many of our own young folks in our families where it takes so much just to get them there and to keep them there year over year. Yes, there's programs or they get funding and all that, but it still takes, you know, gifts and, you know, additional funding from aunties and uncles and whomever to keep them on, you know, to keep them there where they can actually learn. And a lot of these kids have more than one job too, that, you know, to support their education. So this is just horrible. And it's like, it's so predatory. And then you think about, like, they finally get to leave the nest, and the first lesson they learn is that the people that they are entrusting their additional education to don't give a fuck about them.
Yeah.
You know?
And that it's a business, which I think is not something that we talk about enough to our young people about before they go to college, that this is an institution, a financial institution, a capitalistic institution that you are about to interact with. This is not a family. You know, it is not a place that is just there to love on you. That all of those fallacies about what colleges and university and life can be are just not true. And I think being more honest and transparent with you about that prior to them entering into this endeavor to get an education and to get a degree, I think would be really would go a long way to at least allowing them to go into these situations with their eyes open and on the lookout for when things are going wrong, and to step in sooner, to bring their parents in sooner, to organize themselves sooner, because I think a lot of this caught folks off guard, because the idea was, well, we'll put the complaint through the system, we'll let housing know that this needs to be, all of the steps you would expect a university to have in place to follow, so that you could bring a grievance and have it met, have something so material as where you're sleeping. And in cases like today where they're studying, because even while they're on campus, there's still remote learning going on, you know, how dorm rooms and dorms without internet, even in 2021, it's just, all of it is just really sad. And I'm sending lots of strength and a lot of love to all of them. And, you know, I saw Jesse Jackson was down there meeting with them, which, you know, we can talk about Jesse Jackson in a different context some other time, but I did think it was interesting to see someone of his stature break with the establishment and say, no, I'm going to go actually talk to these students, because I was these students, right, when I was their age. And talking to them in a really direct way. They all even said that the students themselves, the protesters, were like, wow, our spirits were so low. And having someone who's been through similar experience come and talk to us and treat us like humans, it really lifted our spirits. And so it's not even as though they're looking for a lot from those outside the institution. And like I said, it's been really disheartening to not see not just Howard grads, but other HBCU grads not stepping up. The Divine Nine not there in full force supporting these students and their rights to live, you know, in healthy conditions on a campus that they fund. So all of it is sad, disappointing, and also, per usual, the youth give me all the hope. as always, they are the ones that bring a smile to my face and give me hope for the future.
Yeah, yeah. And the biggest question is, where's Ja? I mean, have we heard from Ja Rule?
If you don't stop asking me where Ja is, Ja, you know what? That'll be our goal. At some point, we're gonna have to get Ja on Spilling the Tea, because the way his name be in here.
Well, let's move on. Let's move on to getting shit off our chest. I think we should focus on election results, because that's all we got.
Well, I will start and talk about my amazing comrades in the Twin Cities and in Minneapolis. Shout out to Black Vision, shout out to Reclaim the Block. I want to give a specific shout out to Misty Noor, to Candace Montgomery. I have been working with the Minneapolis organizing community for the better part of a decade. And this is a community of organizers that love each other so much and are so committed to dreaming and actually building a different world. It's so, so empowering. And while the question 2 did not pass, which was a way to reimagine public safety there, they got 45% of the vote for something that even a year ago, even 6 months ago, was seen as just not even something people were willing to talk about. And it's such a great place to think about building upon that 45% of people whose minds were opened up to a new way of looking at things, and what that can mean for the future, not just of Minneapolis, but for all kinds of different formations that are looking to think about how to think about public safety, expanding public safety, and reimagine how we can keep ourselves safe and meet the needs of our communities. And so I just want to give them a huge shout out. The ground game they ran was amazing. The opposition was nasty, lies. And when you challenge power and you challenge those in power, that's what the expectation is. And the fact that even with that, they were able to get such a huge percentage to vote yes on that measure. I just can't say it. This is a win. This is a win for defunding the police. This is a win for the ideas that we need to actually see and keep pushing on public safety. We don't expect to win every battle, but what we do expect is to use elections as an opportunity to speak to our people. And I want to give a shout out to Angela Peoples, who was on the ground for the last 2 weeks as well. She said something to me this morning about how, there's always this conversation like, oh, should community organizers, grassroots organizers engage in electoral politics? And the long and the short of it, as she was describing to me, and it's just so profound. She said, listen, the truth is that our people, Black people, we know elections. We know about election cycles. And so if we want to engage with Black people, we have to engage during election cycles. They understand how to create change through elections and through election cycles. And so it's not about just, deciding on the conditions we're going to fight under. It's really about, where do our people already know that they want to engage? Where are opportunities? And election cycles give us the opportunity, a reason to knock on a door, a reason that someone wants to open their door and talk to us about what our ideas around liberation and safety are. And I think that the example that people like Misky and Candace and Black Visions and Reclaim the Block and Yes for Minneapolis showed us is that a different way of being in community with each other is possible, and that we can win. And so I just wanted to give them so much love, so impressed with them, so impressed with the work that they did. And to get that close, we ain't done yet. So we'll be back. We ain't done yet.
I have to jump in here because I think that, in kind of the media construction of what happened on Tuesday, a lot has been said about how, defund is unpopular. And this was an example. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? They came so close, right? It was so close. 45% is nothing to sneeze at. And so I think that it's an example, like you said, it's a win. And it's an example of how we can lead with our values, right? And really sit in those values and run on those values and come so close to winning that I think that next time around, we could have a different result, because what we're just doing is building that collective community power that's needed in order to push the issue forward. So I think that it is an example that we should use in every state across the country, especially on on the brink of 2022, where we're going to be having midterm elections. And I think about my little state of Arizona here, and how we are supposedly purple, and we're not really, but whatever. But I think that there's been a lot of ways shying, Democrats in general, nationally, but especially in Arizona, have shied away from taking on issues head on, right? Issues of defund head on. Nobody wants to talk about it, right, here in Arizona, because they think it's unpopular. Nobody wants to talk about, how we defend against CRT, the CRT manufactured issue, because they think that if they just don't say anything, it'll go away, right? So I think this was an example of how we can actually lean into the things that we say we're about and see results. Now, I'll save my read for, in my, who we gonna fuck up segment. So I'll skip over that, but I think we could talk about Virginia a little bit and kind of the optics of what happened there, and use that as an example of what not to do in 2022, right? And I think that we saw that, there were two Black women who were in that race, that gubernatorial race, and they went with the, milquetoast ass Terry McAuliffe Clinton era, wasn't even that popular when he was governor, right? So they went with the bland white guy, and that's all because of electability. And we see this time and again about who's electable and who isn't, and how we continue to lose when we lean into these electability things. Yeah, we might pick up an office, we might pick up a Joe Biden, but what has Joe Biden actually done? Since he's been in office? I think it's a collective loss for us right now, because he's not able to move his agenda forward, right? But then to just completely ignore the issues of the day, while the Republican candidate, whatever his name is, I don't remember his name, leaned into that CRT bullshit, not talking about abortion on the eve of, this arguments in Supreme Court about abortion rights, not having a good counter for the CRT fake manufactured bullshit, really not talking about issues that Democrats feel aren't popular, because they're chasing down these white soccer moms who ain't never voted for Democrats in the first place. And I wish y'all would just fucking stop. But this is
never have and never will. Stop. Stop.
No, it wasn't even about CRT so much. Like, everybody's prognosticating about, it was, fear of CRT. No, it was just whiteness. Like, white people vote for whiteness over everything, time and time again. And, I don't know how many times we need to say this, but when people showed up shocked about what happened in Virginia, I was like, how the fuck are you all shocked? How are you, I'm sick? How are you shocked about any of this?
Everybody said this was going to happen. Right. The three of us said this was going to happen. I think we said it on this show. Like, come on. Come on.
It just amazes me that people don't understand that white people, and especially white women, will vote for whiteness over everything.
Yep.
Everything. Every damn thing. These women voted against their own best interest with regard to, like, their bodily autonomy. They didn't care. You want to know why? Because they won't go let Black people have nothing.
Wait, I have a bell. Let me ring it.
So it's amazing to me that this is the strategy that Democrats will use time and again, and I will hear it in 2022 from all of these fucking firms that everyone brings in for political consultants, where they don't hire any Black people or Latino people or indigenous people, and it's a bunch of white guys in a room telling us how this election is going to go and what's going to be important and how we need to get these middle class, working class, soccer moms, suburban bitches who will vote for a pumpkin spice fucking latte over a Black person.
Yeah, and my husband and I were talking this morning about this, and how I have just started to really come to terms with the fact that the Democratic Party actually wants to lose. They have figured out that being the victim of right-wing propaganda is very lucrative for individuals within the party and the money making apparatus within the party itself, both at the local, state, and national level. And so, no, they're not running to win. They're running to be able to raise funds after they lose, and then just hold what little bit of power they do have, which is really a fallacy. It's access and not power, right?
Right.
And so, coming to terms with that and really understanding that we're not actually dealing with people in good faith within these systems of the party itself. It's been an eye-opener. You know, it's why I'm a member of the Working Families Party. It's why I work at the Frontline, because we are trying to think about how we can, outside of these structures that clearly were built not to lift up the actual things that Americans want, which, let me just be clear, all of these progressive policies are extremely popular across the board. And I'm not talking about a little bit. I'm talking about every single one of them. Has more than 70% of the general populace is pro these platforms. So yeah, I mean, in the face of those things, there's little to conclude except for that the Democratic Party is not just lost, but they're actually executing their shitty plans exactly the way they want them to be. It's not an accident.
Because whiteness over everything. Let's be clear about this. The Democrats, and I said it on Twitter, I think the other day, the Democrats are no less invested in white supremacy than the Republicans are.
Yeah.
Nope.
Right? In fact, they use it, to their advantage. They don't place themselves as the opposition to the Republican Party, right? Right? Not the opposition. It's just the slightly more polite version of what the Republicans are offering, right? And they think that they can peel off a few people here, but really, all of this is about upholding white supremacy and upholding the systems that really harm us as Black women, as Black people, as Indigenous people, as Latina people, as other people of color. I mean, this is intentional. This is what they want. I think we all just need to accept it and move on and find our own framework. Because I just don't even have the energy to try to dismantle the framework that's here. Fuck it. Like, let's build our own shit, as opposed to trying to dismantle from the inside, because then what we end up having is, Black men writing campaigns against Black women who are socialists and who won the primary, right? You'll have Black folks that get up and support SROs as school board members, knowing full well what, how SROs are involved with the school to prison pipeline. That's how we end up with Black people in these positions who are not in community with our communities.
Yep. Yeah, it's like white social workers who think they know what's best for Black people because I've done so much work in the community. But have you? Or have you just done some harm there? Anyways.
Who's a social worker? Kirsten.
I don't have my jean jacket on today, so we can move on.
I just saw a cartoon. It has an actual movie theater, and it says as the billboard, Kristen Cinema, and then above it says sold out. And I'm like, there you go. Bingo.
That's a good one. Oh,
yeah.
That's really funny. That's a good one.
All right, let's move on to who we fucking up this week. Who we fucking up this week?
I think Chris is fucking somebody up this week.
Oh yeah.
I am fucking up the representation industrial complex. Okay? Because like I just said, we got a whole lot of Black folks and brown folks and Indigenous folks who are winning these offices because representation matters. But these are not the folks that are in community with us. And I really want to, stick it to like some of the school boards here. My sister did an interview on Sunday with a show called Sunday Square Off here in Phoenix, where she talked about all of the things that are going on, including the incident, the anti-Semitic incident that we talked about last week, or the week before, whenever it was, right? And so she says that she is not running again, and this is something that, you know, the worst kept secret in Arizona. But she's not running again because, you know, she's the only Black woman on this board. She's the only person of color on this board, right? And she gets outvoted every time. She gets death threats. People have been following her around and taking pictures and sending pictures of her to the board and herself. You know, we've gotten death threats, and I ain't run for shit, okay? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And so she says, I got to do this to protect my family. And I just think about, like, my sister who is in community, right? And who's doing the right things and taking these stances that are popular with most folks, but she's getting attacked for them. And, you know, folks like the National School Board Association uses her in their promo when they're talking about asking the DOJ to come and investigate some of these incidences that are happening at these school board meetings, but then they walk it back and then leave my sister hanging, right? So she's exposed to more vitriol nationally now, right? And she still hasn't sold out, right? She's still doing the things that she feels is best. And she is a social worker, right? She's a therapist, but she's a Black therapist.
Yeah.
And the thing that she's been talking children, LGBTQ plus children, feel safe at school, right? So I've got my sister on one hand who's being essentially run out of office, you know? And, you know, all of these white people are now like, oh, please run, we can help you, in her DMs. I'm not, fuck all y'all, okay?
Help her where? I mean, her actual safety is being
right.
And also, where the hell we all up till this point?
Exactly.
And thirdly, just thank you, Lindsay. Shout out to you. Okay, the price we shouldn't have to pay in our safety for public service. I just wanted to make that point. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just wanted to say that is not the price, because it's a tax that's only put upon Black people, brown people, indigenous people when we decide to serve for a public office. We can look to Buffalo and look at India Walton. We can look across this entire country and see the same things happening over and over again to those of us. And the answer is not the Higher Heights model. This is not a shade on Higher Heights, but their entire ecosystem is about putting more Black people, and specifically Black women, into powers of position. But the thing is, we don't get the power when we get the position. When we get the position, the power leaves, because our presence shifts how power operates within the actual ecosystem.
And let me take you back to India Walton, because that's a really interesting comment that you made, because we know what happened with India Walton and they're still counting, but she says that,
because that dude is who I wanted to fuck up last week.
There you go. So fuck him. But Michael just sent me an article before we got into our meeting about how the city council in Buffalo was so afraid that India Walton would win that they were considering shifting power to the city manager. So even when we get in office, or even when we have the possibility of getting in office, these people are so fucking racist that they will do everything that they can to strip the power that should come with that office away from us, right? And it's infuriating. But I look at folks like India Walton, who never sold out. Look at my sister, who never sold out. And then I look at folks that we've got Black and brown folks on our school boards now supporting SROs. And one of them called me up saying, I just want you to know that I don't personally support SROs, but, you know, my constituents do. And I said, hold up, sis. Your job as an elected official is to lead. And if you know better, then there are things that you should be doing better. Like, if you know, if you don't support the police in real life, right? Then why aren't you doing the education that's necessary to educate your constituents on why SROs are bad business for schools, right? Why aren't you doing that? Why are you now supporting some Black cop that's running for the Phoenix City Council?
Oh, you mean like that asshole Eric in New York City?
Right. And this is a cop who was part of the force that is now being investigated by the Department of Justice for civil rights violations. And that's who you're going to support? That's who we're supporting now?
No.
A black cop being propped up by non-black people to run.
Well, that's the same thing when you talk about the race in Buffalo. And I started looking at the demographics this morning. The richer, the whiter the district, the more they voted for the asshole write-in candidate. And it was true across the board. India Walton's target voters, they came out and they voted for her. And they voted for her in the primary. It's why she won against the incumbent. And so, yeah, you know, watching the Democrats within the party, like, to me, Byron Brown should be kicked out of the Democratic Party at this point. He should be. He should no longer be able to call himself a Democrat, and he is fully funded by the opposition. And so what is the purpose of having people like this within a party that you claim is about the democratic process, especially because India is a democratic socialist. She's not a socialist. She's a democratic socialist. And they're attempting to bring democratic values with an understanding of public policy that needs to affect real people. And you know, it's so disheartening to watch someone work as hard as she has. This woman's been driving Lyft during her fucking campaign, y'all, because she still has to pay her bills, but she was so committed to change in Buffalo. And I am heartened, right? I am heartened by the fact that the primary went so well for her, and that they even are still having to count these votes, because quite frankly, the amount of money that was poured into this write-in campaign, keeping in mind, they could have poured the money into the GOP candidate.
Right.
Okay, because that's a really important point that I want to make, that the GOP and these Republican donors could have supported an actual GOP candidate, but no. They knew that their path to get this Democratic Socialist out of the way was to go behind this trash black man who was just holding on to the power that he had, that he felt was unduly stripped from him in the primary. And
there's always a black man waiting around the corner.
Done in the dark will come to light, and that's what I see as the takeaways from a lot of these races as well. We should move on, because I'm gonna start getting very agitated.
I feel you.
All right.
I'm sick over here. I'm like,
Well, let's move on to our slices of joy, and I'm anticipating a slice of joy because little known fact, I like Westerns. And I'm excited about The Harder They Fall. It's a Regina King.
Wait, put your hat back on for this part.
I know. Well, hang on. I dropped it. Hang on.
Uh-oh.
you gotta get
Not
the
dropping it.
Right.
Is that
it
like
fell off
purse
my
on the
desk.
floor? I'm not sure. Okay, there you go. You're ready now. Yes.
Love it.
And I got my boots. Oh, I'm not wearing them right now, but I do got boots to match the hat. So I'm excited. I know you're gonna watch it this weekend, right, Leslie?
Yeah, when I talk about my joy, yes, I'm gonna watch it this weekend. Probably Saturday I'm gonna watch it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited. I can't wait. Come on, Chris. We can't wait for your news.
Oh,
I mean, I know the most, your bit of joy. I just wanted to name, just so y'all know, the young folks in her neighborhood named her house the spookiest and scariest house in the neighborhood, y'all. So prepare on that, okay? The queen of spooky season has spoken. All right.
I dibble dabble. Okay. I was very I almost shed a tear, because I know that Pennywise house. I mean, they did the thing, but what I did was give them an experience when they came to the door, and that's what put me over the edge. So yeah, spooky season is over. I'm coming up with a spooky holiday horror calendar for Thanksgiving and Christmas, so I'll be working on that. But what's really giving me joy this week is my baby just got back from getting her vaccination.
Yay!
Okay. We made an appointment weeks ago when we heard that it was going to drop. And so we made an appointment with someone who wasn't our pediatrician or our family doctor. But then our family doctor slid into our DMs yesterday and was like, we're offering the shot. And so we switched up her appointment, sent her to our regular doctor. She was unmoved by the whole experience. She's like, And, I'm so excited that, now she is one step closer to being protected. We're talking about sending her back to school in person after the holidays, the winter holiday break, because then she will have been fully vaccinated by then. Um, so we're really excited. She was the last man standing in our family, and that's our household, and my parents down the street, my sister, my brother, and all that kind of stuff. So she was the only one that was unvaccinated. So thank you to the CDC and the FDA and the ASPCA and anybody else who was involved.
Thank you. So excited. That is very exciting. And also, before I give my bit of joy, a perfect segue to plug the Frontline. We are holding our Family Talk COVID Conversation Part 2 on November 18th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We are gathering a group of experts, actual experts. We have Stella Sappho from Just Equity for Health. We have Dr. Nisi Hudson, who's the chair of the Hood Medicine Initiative. We have Dr. Tyson Bell, one of my favorite people ever, who is a critical care and infectious disease doctor. We have Dr. Quentin Shipley, who is retired psychological practitioner, Dr. Eric Yancey, and LaShira Nolan, who I like to call Lash, who is the founder and executive director of We Got Us, a community empowerment project. And we are going to be talking mainly about three things. The first is just updating folks about booster shots and really talking about what that means for us. The second is this latest news that children from 5 to 12 are able to get the vaccine. And the third, the real crux of this conversation, is going to be really equipping attendees with language and ways to talk about COVID and vaccinations with their loved ones as they're about to start going to homes and gathering for what we are calling self-care season. And so I'm really excited about it. So mark your calendars, November 18th, 7 p.m. It's going to be really dope and really amazing event. We did one of these, the first one we did on Clubhouse, but this one is going to be on Facebook, be on YouTube, it's going to be on Twitter, so you'll see it everywhere. And it's going to be a really great event. So definitely don't miss that. My joy is that I'm going on vacation on Saturday and also celebrating my 20th wedding anniversary the Saturday after that, which is what the trip is for. And I'm really excited to just detach from everything for a week and also to celebrate this milestone in my personal life, which on one hand, it seems like, yep, it's been 20 years. And also, I feel like our wedding was yesterday. So I'm really excited about it. And it's going to be a good time. So that's my joy.
I got one more plug for you, Leslie. I just listened to the last episode of the Blackberry Jams podcast.
Yes, Blackberry Jam Season 1 has come to a close. So you can catch up and listen to all of them right now, all 10 episodes if you like. And of course, because I stay busy, the Interracial Jawn podcast is coming back. We're doing a 10-episode season called Why Work? We're going to be exploring the new landscape of employment and really talking about how so many people are ditching their 9-to-5 gigs and building a really different life for themselves outside of traditional workspaces. I'm really excited. We have some exciting guests that we have coming up: Kevin Bernard, Angela Peoples, Valissa Thompson, Takia, Amin. Honestly, it's a star-studded, some of the most brilliant people I know who are working in traditional fields, but doing different things in them. And I'm super excited about that. So I think the trailer's out right now, and first episode starts in November. So in just a few weeks. So I'm excited about that too.
Yay. Well, congratulations, Leslie, on all fronts. Congratulations to you, Chris, and Miss Quinn on her being half vaxxed. My baby will be vaxxed on Monday, so. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. It's been great. Have a great day, and we'll see you maybe next week. We have to work it out. Bye.
Bye, everybody.